What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. This is our first video of the new year, and it's a video you all have been asking us to do for quite some time now. That is, what are our add-ons, our UI, our WeakAuras, all that stuff that you all like to come in and ask every single day in stream that we just have to keep showing you because we haven't made this video, and we finally are now. So we're going to be able to send you all here or whenever you ask that question now. But let's get into it. I like to keep things very simple when it comes to my add-ons and my UI, and there's nothing extra like ElvUI or some sort of additional plugin. Everything is very standalone in how it functions. So let's talk about what you're going to be seeing on the screen first immediately. All right, down here in the bottom left is an add-on many of you are probably already very familiar with, and that is the Details Damage add-on. Another damage add-on would be Scada that I know people use, but personally I like Details way more. As a broadcaster, Details does also have a nice additional feature called the Action Tracker, and you can just access it by the options here, Broadcaster Tools, Action Tracker, and that lets you see the order in which I'm using abilities, and it just pops it up here in order of how they're being used. So you guys are, when you're watching, able to follow along with what I'm doing instead of trying to keep up with the key presses or the cooldowns, anything like that. You can also set it up to be able to see the actions that are being taken against you. And so, if you want to be able to, see how some classes are doing their rotations into you, that's another way that you can keep track of it if you want to. So that's the first add-on. That's an add-on I actually really like. I really like the Action Tracker that goes along with it. Next up is going to be two of our WeakAuras that are just purely informational for you guys, the audience. And the first one is a stat WeakAura. It just shows all of our stats that our character has. We have it set to show just our secondary stats, but you can also have it show primary stats, anything else you want. But I just have it for the secondary stats. That way, whenever you guys want to know, I don't have to, you don't have to be like, hey, what are your stats? Can you show me your stats? How much burst do you have? How much haste do you have? You guys can just see it here on screen, and I don't have to, constantly open up my character pane in order for you to be able to see it. Right? So that's why I have that there. It's also just a nice quick reference glance down for me on screen to be able to see. Same thing over here on the right is another WeakAura, purely informational for you, the audience. And this is our talents. These are all of our talents that we're using, as well as what legendary we're using and our two trinkets that we currently have equipped. Again, purely informational for you guys, the audience. You're able to see what talents I have. You're able to see what legendary I'm using without me having to open my character panel, show you the legendary, open up my talent panel, show you my talents, all that stuff. You can just immediately reference it on screen. So those are the two WeakAuras that I use that you will see on screen at all times, no matter what. Now, our action bar. Our action bar is a very nice, simple bar. It's Dominos. All right. If you left clicked it, you have all of these are all these action bars. Notice how none of these you actually see when it's off. And that's because we've disabled them. You just drag and drop them over off to the side over here. Keep the action bars that you want. You even have the nice thing about Dominos that I like over Bartender. At least I haven't found it in Bartender yet. Maybe it has it. But for Dominos, it was really easy for me to find and set up. And that was the cast bar. So, when I'm casting an ability, I can see my cast bar right here. So I'm, it's not under my character here or in the middle of my screen. It's nice, big, thick bar that I can see at any time just out of my peripherals instead of, looking at it. So, cancel, cast, anything like that, fake casting, just personal preference with that. And another nice feature about Dominos is for setting your keybinds, you literally just hit the bind key and you just put your mouse cursor over whatever you want and input what key you want it to be, and it will just automatically set it no matter what, and it's done. And you're good to go. And you don't have to go in and mess around with any of the key bindings manually in game. You just set it on the action bar through Dominos directly like that. It's very quick, very simple, and you're gaming. You're gaming, guys. Now, one of the ones that I know you guys really like for the UI is this nice shadowy, easy on the eyes, dark background effect border around all of the bars and the unit frames. And that is an add-on called Lorti UI. That add-on is a standalone add-on. You literally just install it and it applies it. And it just adds a darken effect around the default UI. you know, your bars, your unit frame, the map, all of that stuff. Doesn't require any sort of adjusting or tuning to it. You just install it, boom, good to go, all set. All right, so that is going to be what you see on the screen immediately in terms of our add-ons and UI setup, everything in that regard. Everything else now is going to be things that you only see during certain situations, maybe in combat, during PvP, so things of that nature. The one I know you guys want to know the most is what our combat text is. All right, I know a lot of you like seeing this normal, you know, very simple standard, the actual combat text itself, but it having the icons of the abilities next to it so that you can see what abilities are doing what damage and where it's coming from, instead of it just being this random amalgamation of numbers on your screen. You know, you're able to actually just like see yourself directly what is doing what at all times. Now that is an add-on called Classic Floating Combat Text. All right. This add-on, when you first open it up, it's going to blow you away with all these numbers on your screen like this. But you're going to enable Classic FCT. You're going to hide Blizzard damage and hide Blizzard healing. That way you don't have those extra numbers popping up on your screen. And you're going to go to your special attacks and you're going to go to show spell icons and you're done. That's it. That's all you got to do. You can change from there. You know, you can change the size of it. You can change, you know, whether or not you want it for crits, how long you want things to show for, the scaling of it, all those things. It'll all show up. You can tune it however you want it to be. If you don't want to see a bunch of little damage, so if you're, you know, maybe a warlock and you've got a bunch of abilities with really little dot damage that you don't want to see, and you just want to see the big damage that occurs, you will go to something, the absolute threshold here, and you will set a absolute threshold on this damage. So any damage value that is below what you input here, which for me is going to be 700, anything under 700 damage won't show up no matter what. It's just not even going to register on screen for you to see. Anything over 700 will. All right, so that's how I like to set it, because, you know, I'm an Enhancement Shaman. My Flame Tongue hits apply on my Wind Fury hits, my normal auto attack hits. It applies on pretty much all of my abilities that I use that are physical, you know, weapon swinging abilities. And it's just a lot of really little numbers that explode all over my screen when I do that. And so I set this absolute threshold in order to prevent that from happening. So that's why, you know, that's one of the things I really like about this add-on as well. Now, you can also set it for % of player health, % of average damage dealt, things like that. You can set these. There's a lot of things that you can mess with. One of the other nice things I like about this add-on is the merge events. So if you're a class like an Enhancement Shaman, if I uncheck that, all right, and I go to Storm Strike a target, it's going to show me, well, we parried on that one, so you don't get to see it. Give me 1 second. So we're going to hit it. Okay, it's notice Storm Strike was 2 separate damage numbers in there. That one was the main hand hit, one was the offhand hit, because Storm Strike is a dual wield weapon attack. It has 2 separate damage values for the main hand and the offhand. But under that add-on, if we leave merge events checked, all right, it now consolidates it into a single damage value that we will see, a 1 weapon value hit. So you can actually just see what the accumulative total damage was of your Storm Strike without having to, you know, determine how much it was. You know, if one crit, you know, the offhand crit, but the melee main hand didn't, things like that. You know, it's just going to be 1 damage value that you'll get to see for the total amount. And that's one of the things that I really like about the combat add-on myself. So that is Classic Floating Combat Text. Again, guys, remember, we're going to have all this stuff in the description below. Don't worry. I'm not just going to, you know, tell it to you and then leave you to find it on your own. We're going to put everything in the description for you. Now, the ones that we're going to get into now are going to be very PvP oriented add-ons. They're ones that show up pretty much primarily only in PvP situations. And the first one we're going to talk about is Omnibar. All right, that's this little thing that's right here on your screen. You can move it at any time you want. Omnibar is an add-on that will, it will show you all of the interrupts. By default, it'll show you all the interrupts that classes use. So real quickly, it'll just put them on here. So when you're in combat, you're in BGs, you're in arenas, when somebody uses an interrupt, that cooldown icon for their ability will pop up right here under your character. It's a nice centered visual location for you to be able to keep track of their interrupts. The nice thing about this add-on is that you can take it beyond just the interrupts, right? So if we go here to spells, you can have it be for other important cooldowns. Maybe you want to set it to all disruptives. So you could even put, you know, blinding sleet from Frosty Case for their blind effect. Or maybe you want to set the hammer toss from warrior, you know, Hodge from paladin, things like that. You know, anything that could be a potential disruptor, psychic scream, things like that. You can have that check marked. You can put it for any ability, and when those abilities get used, they will pop up here and you'll be able to see that they're on cooldown, so you're able to keep track of it. All right, but if you don't want to do that through Omnibar, there are other add-ons that are going to keep track of some of these other major cooldowns for you, and one of those is one that I use called Nameplate Cooldowns. All right, and Nameplate Cooldowns is a really awesome add-on as well that you're able to use here. We're going to enable the test mode, and you will be able to see over their name anytime they use, you know, major cooldown abilities, things like charge, things like grasp, and you know, cloak evasion or rogue evasion, cloak, all of those main cooldowns that classes use, their trinket, you will see them here above their nameplate in a small icon. You can, you know, you can set the icon size. You can make it really small. You can make it really big. Don't make it really, really big, but, you know, make it a nice size that, you know, you're able to see multiple cooldowns without it, you know, cluttering up the name or blocking too much of your screen. But, you know, just big enough for you to be able to tell what the icon is. And it's a really nice way to visually be able to see what has been used on every target. It shows you, you know, what defensives they used, what offensive cooldowns they've used. So, you know, when you have a good opportunity to have a go on the opponent, you know, if they've burned their bubble and sack and everything else in between, you know, you're going to be able to see that. If you're on, you know, target A over here, you're still able to see target C and what cooldowns they've used, and just be able to swap at any time that you need to for it. All right. And so that's one of the really nice things about this add-on. This is Nameplate Cooldowns. That's how you keep track of that. But the other big one that I know a lot of you ask, and I see this being asked in a lot of streams, is actually one similar to Nameplate Cooldowns, and that is big debuffs right here. All right, this one will show you a big icon on the right of their nameplate of, you know, debuffs that have been used, you know, primary abilities that you can use. You can, again, you know, it tells you when Bladestorm's going on, it tells you when Retail's going on, when they've used these big primary abilities. You know, Divine Shield, Ice Block, these main debuff cooldowns that you're able to keep track of, and it's just a nice another source of information to be able to have on your screen, just in a big icon. You know, makes it easy to keep track of, and you know, you're not looking for it under their, you know, their character frame or their unit frame over here under an arena frame, anything like that. It's just boom right there on the middle of their nameplate, so you're able to, you know, see to keep track of it. And you can set it for, like Omnibar, you can set it for anything you want. You can set it for CC, you can set it for spell immunities, you can set it for, you know, the roots, everything in between you can set it for. But just know the thing that is a drawback about it, all right, and this is why it's nice to have multiple add-ons that can cover these types of information like Omnibar and Nameplate Cooldowns, is, let's say a rogue uses evasion and then uses cloak. You're only going to see one of the icons showing here, and it's going to be the one that they used last. And so if he's using cloak, if he pops evasion and then he pops cloak, right here visually, you're only going to see that he has Cloak of Shadows popped. You're not going to see that he has evasion popped. So you're going to need something else to be able to tell you that he has evasion popped, right? Be that, you know, you're checking through the unit frame, or one of your other add-ons, his nameplate cooldowns here, telling you that, because Cloak of Shadows is going to be the only one showing, and, you know, you don't want to just be also trying to, you know, slam all your melee abilities into him because you think Cloak of Shadows is popped. He also has evasion popped. You're not going to be able to hit him at all. So that is another one of the main add-ons that we use when it comes to PvP. And the last one that we use is actually right here. It is sArena. Personally, I personally like sArena the most. I know people also use Gladius. Gladius is the other primary one. I like using sArena. It's a very nice arena frame add-on, very customizable in terms of where you want to move it, where you want to put it, the sizing of it, as well as showing you the DRs, the cast bar, what class they are, what spec they are, their racial cooldowns, their trinkets. It's just a lot of nice information to be able to have here when you're in arenas. And you know, it's the one I like. You know, when it comes down to it, it's preference, right? You know, if you like Gladius more, use Gladius, and there's no right or wrong add-on when it comes to these two add-ons for your arena frames. Both do what they're supposed to do and both get the job done. You know, there are people using both sets of them, so don't worry too much about it. Just pick whichever one you like the most to use. All right. So guys, that is going to wrap up all of those add-ons that you see on our screen. That we're using during PvP, during PvE, whatever. That is all of our UI. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I left out, but I don't believe there is. You might have seen a couple other add-ons on the list there, but those are just add-ons that I have installed, but I'm not currently using at all, so I didn't mention them. But that is what we're working with all. I hope this helped you out and you are able to use some of these add-ons and you enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the maw.